Good morning, everyone. If you can please type your name, your agency, and your email address in the chat box. We'll be using the chat box for our attendance today. I see everyone signing in. Thank you, everyone, for signing in the chat box. We're very happy that you could join us today. And B, is it all right if we get started then? Okay, excellent. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gina Pasella, and I am a member of the CPS DFSS Disabilities team, and I'm very happy to be here with you today. I will be presenting along with Shelby Herbst, who is our new infant toddler program coordinator for Erickson, and so you will be meeting her shortly. In addition to that, we have Laura, and Laura, I want to pronounce your last name correctly.
Bilbrey.
Bilbrey, thank you, Laura. And we're very happy to welcome Laura Bilbrey to our session today. You are coming from Teaching Strategies. Excellent. And forgive me, I am remiss. Beatrice Nichols is here with us. She is our Health and Safety Director for DFSS. Hi, B. Good morning. So we're very happy that you're able to join us today for our Education and Disabilities Subcommittee meeting of the Head Start HSAC. So to get started this morning, we've asked Laura to prepare for you a nice presentation, just an overview to get us thinking about education, to be thinking about child assessment and outcomes, and all of that good information that we would like to hear from Laura today.
Thank you so much, Gina, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to try and share my screen. Here we are. My name is Laura Bilbrey. I work with Teaching Strategies, and before I preempt my next slide, really want to hear from you in the chat box, if you will. When you think of Teaching Strategies, what do you think of, or what do you know about Teaching Strategies? I'm watching intently in the chat box. It's an assessment tool, which is gold. They evolve. Sally, I'd love to know more about that, and hopefully we'll cover it in my presentation. Lots of assessment. Oh, IRMA growth. I love that. Progressions of development and learning. Look, I have my ODL right here next to me to support our presentation this morning. So to the feedback that we're getting, yes, Teaching Strategies is, we do have professional development on trauma and many other things. Yes, we do. Teaching Strategies really aims to be an ecosystem, a one-stop shop, right? So whenever we're working with young children and families, we know that curriculum is a piece of that, assessment is a piece of that, family engagement is a piece of that, teacher training and professional development is a piece of that, but so is the access to data so that we can use it not just to have numbers and information, but to inform our practice, whether that's me as a classroom teacher or whether that is the department as a whole, looking at things on a very large scale to influence work that needs to happen. So what we aim to do is to bring together all of these pieces that we believe really are the foundation on which any high quality programming that is going to best support children and families is based. So not one to try to I want to do an icebreaker with you. But first, what I'm going to do in my presentation is to really hopefully be able to answer for you how children are assessed within DFSS programs, how data is used to benefit every child's development, how are families engaged, and what resources are there to make sure that they're playing a role and feeling like an active participant. And we know the role that families play. It's important that we engage and support them. We'll look at some data trends that are coming from this academic year within DFSS programs, and then really look at the recommendations that teaching strategies and our research team have looked at the data, and that we're working with department leaders to try and drive to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support every child's success. To get us started, I'm going to, for any of you who know our curriculum, we have something one piece of the curriculum is called Mighty Minutes. And those of you who work in early childhood know, children can spend up to 40% of their day in transitions, right? Cleaning up, waiting in line, waiting for the child that's struggling to clean up, sitting at the table, waiting for everybody to get their hands washed. It's just a lot of time. And so we created Mighty Minutes to really make the most of every moment of every day, right? So there's short, snappy activities that teachers can do during transition times to make sure that we're promoting development and learning all day long. So one of the Mighty Minutes, number 31, is called What's in the Box. So I have here a box, and I'm going to ask all of you, you can come off mute or put it in the chat box. I don't have a prize for the winner, but what do you think is inside this box, right? So we can see that it's got to be small. It has to fit inside this box. In relation, it's smaller than my hand. And if I shake it, that's what it sounds like. So tell me, what kind of noise does that make? Or what do you think is inside that box? Crayons? Oh, someone said cards. Yes, this should have Mighty Minute cards inside of it, but I emptied the Mighty Minutes cards out to put in this other piece. But that is a great guess. Any other guesses? So it's going to have to be small enough to fit in a Mighty Minutes box. Oh, plastic insects from my science center. Something small and hard. You're right, Sarah. It is something small and hard. Oh, I wish it were candy. I have a sweet tooth. I'd love for it to be candy. So what if I were to tell you that it has two colors, silver and black? Does that help? And this is what it sounds like. Dice. Oh, no, it's a great guess though. A toy car. Paper clips. Who said that? It is one of the giant, I gotta figure out where my camera is. One of the giant big paper clips. So well done to Iris and Marisol and Rashida. Good guessing, good guessing. I wanted to share that with you today because I think oftentimes those outside of education think that we have to be teaching content all the time, and children are creating their own understanding. There's one activity that we did that took maybe 45 seconds. We were able to touch upon 7 of the objectives for development and learning. So what we were looking at, or what teacher would be able to observe based upon how children engaged with that, would be children regulating their own emotions and behavior. Were they able to wait until it was their turn to speak out? Did they engage at all? Participating cooperatively and constructively. Language, listening and understanding, using language to express their thoughts and needs. I know we did written language. It wasn't verbal language, but that's the beauty of Zoom. Attending and engaging, and we can keep on going. Exploring and describing spatial relationships if we'd been able to engage. So, children very rarely do things in isolation, and every moment in a child's life is a learning opportunity. And so we really encourage teachers that are implementing the creative curriculum or using GOLD, our assessment tool to assess children's development, knowledge, skills, and abilities, to really look holistically, because children very rarely do something in total isolation. And hopefully the overview I give you today will help bring that to life for you. So we're going to go on. Within DFSS, there are 4 solutions that Teaching Strategies provides. When I asked what you knew about Teaching Strategies, most folks said GOLD. It used to be called TS goals, so that's oftentimes what folks still refer to it as. But Teaching Strategies is an organization and with several solutions. And under that umbrella is the creative curriculum, which now has a digital component that is cloud. We have Gold, which is our assessment tool. We have Ready Rosie, which is family engagement. They're really beautiful, really short 3 to 5 minute videos, and families can receive them. And they're videos of real families doing simple activities together to support their child's learning and development. And it's beautiful when a teacher is using Gold to assess a child and then can send specific Ready Rosie videos to a family to be able to help them help their child, right? And then we also have online professional development. And these are all things that are used by DFSS and available to every provider, every teacher and assistant teacher in every classroom. I'm going to look at the chat really quickly just to make, oh, people are still signing in. Okay, wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So when we think about how children are assessed within DFSS, for as long as I can remember, the department has used Gold, Teaching Strategies Gold, to assess children. And Gold is an authentic, ongoing assessment tool. It's very strengths-based, and we use that to try and support teachers to observe children in their natural habitat, right? As they're engaged in activities throughout the day, and to look through the lens of our 38 objectives for development and learning. And I'll go into a little bit of detail, don't want to go too deep, to be able to ask ourselves, what can this child do? Right? It's not do they or don't they? Because and I'm going to try and show you, I don't have a visual pulled up in my deck, but I actually do. If you'll bear with me while I skip slides for just a second. And it's going to keep on going. So this progression of learning, we call this the color bands, right? So our research shows that the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are labeled red are typical, widely held expectations of a child in their first year of life. These are widely held expectations for a child's second year, third, 2 years before kindergarten, 1 year before kindergarten, into kindergarten, and it keeps progressing through third grade. And what we know is development is sequential, right? So it doesn't matter if I am a 3-year-old child enrolled in a Head Start classroom and someone is trying to assess my knowledge, skills, and abilities in literacy. It really doesn't matter whether the indicators that my skills are being rated at the orange color band, which would be a 1 to 2-year-old, or the purple color band, which would be kindergarten. What we know is there's a progression of learning that happens, and teachers need to understand where a child is so they know what comes next, because I need to go through all of the skills in orange and then yellow and then green in order to make it to blue. And the attributes that are described there. I'm going to show you another visual, which is this one. So this is taking one of the objectives using numbers and concepts, right? So if we were looking at a 3-year-old child, the widely held expectations say that they can verbally count to 10, and that they can actually count 5 objects, right? So I may be able to count to 100 just shouting out numbers, kind of like the ABCs, but I actually someone can put up to 5 objects in front of me, and I can do one-to-one correspondence and count them. This gives some examples, but let's just say that I'm 3 years old and I'm not doing that yet. Then the teacher would be able to go back and say, okay, they're verbally counting, let's build on that. And this is how they're assessing, but then our curriculum offers up a whole lot of activities that are individualized that say, if this is where the child is, then this is what comes next, and how you teach and meet them where they are. Because it doesn't really do any good if we're a teacher in a 3-year-old classroom and we are just teaching or doing small group activities, trying to see if children can count up to 5 objects accurately. If they can't, and I just keep on going, then they've missed the opportunity to practice the skills that came before that, and they'll be stuck, right? They have to make it through this entire progression by the time they get to third grade in order to get to be meeting those widely held expectations that are age appropriate. Does that make sense to everyone? Any comments or questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen while I go backwards to the slide I'm supposed to be on, so you don't have to see me Zipping through again.
Laura, a question about whether we'll have access to the slides later.
Sure, I'm happy to share our slide deck if that's helpful. All right, now we're caught back up and you don't have to get whiplash watching me zip through the screens. So the purposes of GOLD are really to help teachers observe and document children's learning and development over time. And that we want teachers to use the data that they're collecting to support and guide and inform their planning and instruction. But we can also, sometimes there's a report that we have, it's called the individual child report. And if we're seeing trends in a child's development that in specific areas, they're not meeting widely held expectations, GOLD is not, oh my goodness, the word is escaping me. It is not a screener, right? It is not in any way. But we can, as the teacher, I can identify a child who might benefit from additional help or screening. So I might take, if I'm observing a child over the course of a year, I might go to my director and say, let's look at Laura's individual child report. What do you think here? Should we make a referral? But GOLD is not meant to be a screener in any way, shape, or form, but it does help pull data from a classroom, from the person who spends outside of families the most time with a child, to be able to inform further evaluation or opportunities that children may need for support. Really helps us communicate with families and other important adults in a child's life. As I shared, is part of a larger accountability system for the city, for the department. And as administrators, there are reports that you can pull to really guide your program planning and know what's needed. I'm going to keep on going. As I shared, these are the 38 objectives. They are research-based, and the 38 objectives are really predictors of children's ability to succeed in school and life, really, right? And there is an ability to measure K readiness. We don't recommend it's used until the end of pre-K, because what we want to do is we want to look at children where they are right now. And all of life is not a race to kindergarten, right? I'm not supposed to be ready for kindergarten until the end of the year before of my pre-K year. Our assessment tool is aligned with state standards and the Head Start Early Learning or Head Start Learning Framework. So when we think about this is a process, right? So teachers are observing, collecting facts. We're all observing all day, every day. Many of you were observing my paperclip inside my box, and we're surprised that there weren't actually Mighty Minutes in it. And then we analyze and respond to what it is that we're seeing. If we're just observing and getting information, but we don't respond to it, then we're not really unleashing the power of the information that we have. We evaluate, and then we look, we summarize, we plan, and we communicate. So within GOLD, what that starts is we're collecting documentation and we're asking, what does this child know? What can they do? What are they able to do? I'm observing all day long. I'm observing in those transition times, at meal times, small group, large group. All day long, I'm watching and seeing, and I'm looking from a strengths-based lens. What can they do? And then I think I use the objectives. What do I see? How does that relate to these 38 objectives that I know are measures or indicators of their success further on? And I enter preliminary levels, and then I look at them over time. Are they making progress? How are they comparing to other children of their age? Are they below those widely held expectations, meeting them or exceeding them? And then I use that information to change the input, change my teaching and plan so that I am able to respond to all of this data and information I have and make a difference for that child and meet them where they are. Kind of reminds me of the GPS on my phone, right? So it's always watching me and it's documenting, did I follow the directions? Did I stay? And if I don't, if my GPS just kept doing the same thing and telling me as though I was following the directions and I hadn't, I'm never going to get to my destination. And I think we need to look at assessment and curriculum the same way. If we're observing children and we see that they may have gone off course or something is not matching with what you have planned, then you have to change that plan in order to help them have the safest and most fruitful journey. Any comments or questions? Is it still folks just signing in? All right. We've already looked at the progressions of development and learning. Again, this goes all the way through birth through third grade. We can see our children of different ages. And when a teacher's using GOLD, what they'll do is they would take their observation, they would connect it to one of the 38 objectives. And these in bold are what we call indicators. And so this is what we're looking for with this observation. Can they verbally count? Yes. Okay. Then can they verbally count to 10 and up to 5 objects? And then these are what we call examples. These are the children don't have to meet these pieces. These are just examples of what others have observed that help them get a concept of what it is that we would be looking for. And teachers assign those levels. Again, it doesn't matter the age of the child. I'm looking at what I'm observing. I'm not trying to assess what's on blue. And what I love most, I was a teacher and an administrator, oh goodness, for more years than I would like to admit publicly, before I came to work at Teaching Strategies. And we used GOLD. I've used the creative curriculum since it was on VHS tape, if that helps. But as a teacher, it was always so helpful for me to be able to look at these examples, because it doesn't matter, again, whether a child's below, at, or exceeding that expectation. I need to meet them where they are. And this is going to reiterate everything I just told you. One of the other things that's really important is that I want to talk through how GOLD and the creative curriculum provide support for children with disabilities, right? So this is individualized, really focuses on progress, not do they or don't they, because that doesn't do me any good. I do or I don't, but where am I? So as a teacher, I know where to meet them to carry them on through that. And it's really based on strengths. I'm going to pull up and do a really quick, because I know I can talk about this all day long and there are other agenda items. Oops, bear with me. And I want to share what it looks like, because it's easier to show you this digitally. So teachers have these physical resources in their classroom, but they also have digital access, okay? So in the Assess tab, that's where I'm putting GOLD documentation. It's where I am, I'm gonna go to View Documentation. And I'm probably, so this is what it looks like when a teacher, all of those observations that they're making, mine are all pretend because I can't show you real children's data, but there could be videos here, there could be pictures here, it could just an activity that a teacher does and it will give that description. There's also the ability for teachers and families to communicate back and forth, and teachers to send through our family app pictures and videos or notes of children doing activities at home. And then the teacher can decide if they want to make that a piece of observation. And the teacher's always in charge of that assessment piece. They're the ones that have been trained. But it's really important to look through the lens of what can the child do in a group setting at school versus what can they do at home in a very different kind of setting to get a whole picture. So I look at all of this observation or all of this documentation. And then when I go to the Teach tab, this is my weekly plan, and I'm going to go to, let's go to tomorrow, this intentional teaching experience. And when I open that up, what this is telling me, and this is not a great example, I probably picked the wrong day. This is the list of children in my classroom, and where they are on this cadence is based upon the last time I observed them. Were my observations, were my preliminary levels, did they place their knowledge, skills, and abilities in the yellow color band, yellow and green, green and blue, blue and purple? And it gives me a different teaching sequence and a different way to interact with children based upon where my observations have placed their knowledge, skills, and abilities in the past. So I'm not teaching, well, in this case I would be, because everybody's in the yellow green. But let's just pretend that Bella is actually up at yellow and say Vivian is down at blue. I want to interact with Vivian in a very different way than I do Bella, so that I'm reaching them where they are. So this does that differentiation for children or for teachers. And I also want to show you this little piece here, which is called Including All Children. And if I click there, it's really helping me think about modifications that I can make to this activity to reach children with varying skills, and particularly if there's a child that has an IEP right? So this is on every activity, every intentional teaching experience that's in our curriculum. There are those modifications right there for teachers to access so they can make those modifications. And then what I do, oh, and I went away from it, I apologize, is if I choose to, and not every teacher does, I can print this out or I can do this digitally as I'm teaching. If you see up here, this is how I teach it. If I click to assess, it asks me specific questions. As I'm doing this activity with children, did they show an understanding of positional words? Did they interact with other children during the treasure hunt? And if let's just say that that's the one. So this lists all the children that I've selected, and I can go through based upon what I've observed while teaching this and enter that in for as a piece of documentation. There's nothing else I have to do. I'm teaching this activity. I can assess in this activity in real time, and that goes into the child's portfolio. And we think about family, there's also on every one of these, there's a family activity that they can do. You can see it's much simpler. They don't have the teaching sequence, but we're trying to provide families with or teachers activities they can send home to families that don't really require additional materials or resources, but so that there's that homeschool connection. Any comments or questions? Right. And I will go back. Again, I shared with you all that DFSS has been using GOLD as an assessment tool for a very long time. And we also all know that this has been a real transitional year, right? Lots of things have changed. But after each checkpoint, we work with the department to really look at the number of children that are below meeting or exceeding the widely held expectations for their age. At the end of pre-K, we also look at K readiness for 4-year-old children that are headed to kindergarten. We're able to segment that by children who have an IEP with different demographic data. But what we're really seeing this year so far is because teachers summarize children's development in the fall, winter, and the spring, and that in every area, regardless of age or any other demographic, all children are making growth. There are increases in those widely held expectations in social, emotional, physical, language, literacy, math, and cognitive in all of them. So that's really exciting and to be celebrated. Where we continue to see the least amount of growth or the lowest levels of children meeting widely held expectations, this won't surprise a lot of folks, really is in literacy and math. And we have shared with William and Tamela and others at the department, I think it was in the newsletter recently, there are 2 really great articles about where the literacy within the creative curriculum, where is the literacy, where is the math, because literacy can be a time of day, but children are developing literacy skills in every interaction all day long. Same with math, and we need to build that in all day and not make it just a 20-minute activity. So I might share that again and see if we can't distribute that to everyone, because it can be really powerful for you as educational leaders and stakeholders. When we look, this is based upon both the data from last year, so the 2020-2021 year, as well as this year. The recommendations that were made is to continue to drive fidelity. So anytime you're using a tool, fidelity means using it the way that the developers are created and creators intended. It's what our research is based upon, right? So we have research that shows if teachers use the creative curriculum with fidelity, then children will make greater gains. Right? They'll develop optimally. And so we want to continue to drive fidelity within every single classroom in the city of Chicago. That's why we have the PD plan. We're really trying to provide opportunities for folks to learn and grow. We really want to encourage teachers to share those Ready Rosie modeled moments. There are family workshops. There's also something called Give Me Tens, and those are 10-minute family workshops. And it really helps empower families and helps them to understand how they can best support their child's development. Again, there's a report at the end of each checkpoint. It's called the Development and Learning Report. It's one of my favorites. Every teacher has access to it for every child. And basically it would say to you, currently your child is, and next they will. right? So it doesn't matter whether they're meeting widely held expectations, exceeding, below. Right now, this is what they're doing. And no, research tells us this is what they'll do next. And here's some activities that you can do to support that. That's incredibly powerful, right? Again, that's strengths-based. And we hope that teachers will take advantage of that. And then again, trying to plan PD for teachers to help them see how to use the data, right? Because otherwise they're so busy collecting it and it's not really returning dividends for them or the children and families that they serve. And what we hope everyone will do is committing to reliability, that both site leaders as well as teachers will engage in building their knowledge and understanding, site leaders in particular, because they're the ones who scaffold and support their teachers. That educational leaders or site leaders will really schedule and assign PD team to their team. Just like we individualize for children, we need to look at teachers, let's look at your last performance review or where you are really, really shining versus where you might need some help. And let's find some PD opportunities offered through the department or through online professional development within the platform to help them learn and grow and engaging with families. And I think the other thing, just as a real quick wrap up, is that we remember that the curriculum isn't just the daily resources. It's not just Mighty Minutes and the studies and intentional teaching experiences. It's the physical environment that children are in. It's the structure and the routine and the predictability. It's those interactions, as we all know. So remembering that a curriculum isn't just the resources and teaching content, but where children are spending their time and what that routine is. So I just wanted to wrap up and see, show of hands, raise your hand, put in the chat box. Do you think now you'd be able to speak to how children are assessed, how data can be used to benefit children's development, how we can engage families, some of those data trends and growth that we're seeing within the department? I'm glad you enjoyed it, Gina. Hope others, and Vincent, you can. Thank you all so much. I'm going to have one more slide. Just any comments or questions?
Or if I could say, this was wonderful. For me, this was right on time. And just to share that this is timely as well for Chicago Public Schools. Today is our third quarter report card pickup for families across the city and parent-teacher conferences. And so our families are hearing this very information about where is your child at today and how can we get him to the next level. And so this is very timely for us. And I could spend a lot of time with you observing all of that great information and teaching strategies gold. And so I hope there'll be further opportunities in the future where we can delve in deeper to more about how we can support our children, all children, but particularly our children who are diverse learners. So I thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. And, Deb is kind of the Chicago icon, but there's a whole team of us and we're here to help any way that we can and really honor and respect the work that all of you do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And for those of you who had asked about the slides, yes, we will obtain those from Laura and ensure if your email address is in the chat box, please, we'll make sure those slides are sent to you. Okay, now shifting gears, we're going from talking about education and moving to the content area disabilities. And so next I would like to pull up my PowerPoint. Bear with me for just a moment, please. Okay, I hope you're able to see my slideshow. And I would like to welcome Shelby Herbst, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Shelby. I am the new Infant Toddler Inclusion Project Coordinator at Erickson, working with the 0 to 3 kiddos. We are still building our team, but I am so happy to be here and I look forward to working with all of you and learning more from you. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. We're so happy you're here today. And Shelby's contact information is on the slide, so you can jot that down. And most of you are familiar, I am Gina Pasella. I'm the CPS DFSS Disabilities Team Leader and Facilitator, and we are a team of subject matter experts in the disabilities content area. And so we are here to support you with all things children with diverse learning needs or suspected diverse learning needs, from our prevention initiative programs to our Head Start 3 to 5 programs. We are here to help you identify children who may need referrals to Chicago Public Schools for evaluation. We are here to help you make those referrals to CPS, to support your families, to ensure that the children are receiving the services that they're entitled to, and to troubleshooting when there are access issues. That may be with regard to school assignments, CPS bus transportation, but we know that there are many aspects to ensuring children receive those quality IEP services. And so my contact information is on the slide. If you are not sure who your CPS DFSS disabilities subject matter expert is, please reach out to me and I can ensure that you are linked to our subject matter expert. Okay. Moving on, next, Shelby and I would like to talk with you about the goals that we developed as an Education and Disabilities Subcommittee last year. And so in looking at the data at that time and having rich conversations with all of you, we decided as a group what would be our top priorities for this subcommittee going forward. And so we'd like to revisit those with you now. So based upon our last meeting together, one of our top priorities was to train our teachers regarding the special education referral process. And as we know, we have turnover at sites and annually, and things can also change with regard to that special education referral process, whether that be related to our early intervention system for birth to 3 students, or with Chicago Public Schools for our students who are 3 to 5. And so it's really important that we keep teachers abreast of all that is required when they want to refer a child for a special education evaluation. So that was our top priority. Our second goal that we developed was to increase our parent trainings as it related to special education services so that our parents could have a full understanding of the referral process and if their child was found eligible for services, what that might look like. And one of the outcomes of the subcommittee was that these trainings should be offered at a time that is flexible for families. And so if that means offering the trainings in the evenings, that's something that we should prioritize. And so we'll definitely be looking to partnering with all of you to ensure that these trainings are scheduled. Okay. Thirdly, we want to increase the number of children who are receiving their IEP and Ifsp services. And we will show you next in our current data that this is still a high level concern for us. As a subcommittee, our data are still reflecting that our children are not receiving the services that they are so entitled to and so much in need of. And so we'll talk more about that. Our committee has some great ideas about how we could improve the level of services that are being brought or received by our students. And so one of those was to increase the number of delegate agency staff who provide support in this area. So as I recall, one of our sub-recipients, we engaged in a conversation and she was saying it's an all hands on deck proposition at their program. Everyone is involved in ensuring children with diverse learning needs are receiving their services. So whether that be from the person who's loading the child onto the bus to go to Chicago Public Schools, to the classroom teacher, knowing what time and day that child is leaving her classroom, to the food aide ensuring the child receives lunch before he departs, to the site director, I'm informing the families when something happens at CPS and the bus is late. So it really needs to be all hands on deck to ensure that this happens for that child and for our families. Okay, the next item we talked about was creating a focus group so that we could come together in a learning a community and talk about what's working for you. El Valor, for example, has a forward-thinking model for serving children with disabilities. And so knowing that and knowing that they have, if you don't mind me saying so, have achieved and exceeded the 10% enrollment of disabilities federal mandate, we might look to Alva Laura and say, please, can you talk with the rest of us about how you've achieved this wonderful success and what has worked for you and what has not worked for you? So we would really look to those opportunities to dialogue with you, our partners. Next, we talked about educating parents about the importance of receiving special ed services. And again, that ties into parents understanding the value of the services and the importance in receiving those. And then finally, educating our families about Chicago Public Schools options, including dual enrollment. So because we have a large number of children who are not receiving their CPS services, we really want to talk about families about how they can attend both our community-based Chicago Early Learning Program and how they also can be attending Chicago Public Schools and the dual enrollment option and what that looks like and how we can support them in making that happen. So that is a lot of work for us to do. I want to pause here now to ask for questions, comments, clarification of the goals that I just shared with you. Thank you, Diane. I see your question. How can you be part of the focus group? We are so happy that you asked. We will definitely be looking to volunteers. And so we will be collecting this information from the chat box today. If you know that you would very much like to be part of this work going forward, please indicate that in the chat box, your name and your contact information, and we will be reaching out to you soon so we can have further discussions about how we can, get started. The next question is, Iris, when CPS is closed during summer, how will the process work? And Iris, can you say a little bit more about the process? Referral process. Okay, thank you, Iris. So the referral process to Chicago Public Schools, that is an excellent question. And what I will say to you is that there is no cutoff for referrals to Chicago Public Schools for evaluation. So every day in the city of Chicago, parents, pediatricians, mental health providers, classroom teachers have concerns about children. And so we can always begin the referral process to Chicago Public Schools. For our Chicago Early Learning programs, your vehicle for referring children will be doing the developmental screenings, following the Chicago Early Learning Implementation Manual, which says that within 10 days of that screening outcome, you will sit down with the family and have what we call a screening review team meeting. And you talk about the process of referring and what that looks like and the importance of referring the child. And then you're going to assemble your referral packet. And our subject matter experts are here to assist you with that process, Iris, and work with you and your classroom teachers. And we can always receive those referral packets daily, including summertime. And then based on the date that the referral packet is received, our CPS database will generate a due date. So by law, the school district has 60 calendar days to implement and complete that child's evaluation. And so even if the referral packet is received in July, for example, it's still going to quantify the number of days that that evaluation is due. So it may be that that evaluation won't be due till October 10th. However, we encourage you just as soon as the need is evident, and that's Head Start language, to make that referral and know that it's a linear process, meaning children that are referred today will be evaluated before children who are referred tomorrow. And so we want to make sure that those referrals are timely. Again, I could talk a lot more about that, but I would encourage you to reach out to your subject matter expert and we can support you in that. Okay, I'm seeing.
Gina, there is another question from El Valor.
Oh, wonderful. Let me take a look. Thank you, Jolie.
You're welcome.
Okay, first, I'm just going through the chat. I see Tracy Delgado. One of the biggest issues that we have at our agency is that the family says they did not receive information for placement. With that being said, if we try to get the services started, is it too late? And will services begin at the beginning of next year? So before I address Alvalor's question, if I could just mention, Tracy, thank you for that. And please reach out to us. Your subject matter expert, I believe, is Laura. We are here to assist you. We definitely want children to receive the services that they are entitled to in this moment. And some of our children are also entitled to what we call extended school year services, or what lay people outside of education would refer to as summer school. And so I would work with Laura to find out about the specific child, if they need a school assignment this school year, if they're entitled to summer services, or if in fact, the family was looking to starting in the fall. So each case is unique, but I would highly encourage you to reach out. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, and I'm looking for Alvalor's question, Jolie.
It's from Hilda Cervantes.
Okay, great. Let me take a look.
Gina, Hilda asked, will there be different topics on the parent workshop, or will it mainly focus on the referral process?
So that's an excellent question, Hilda. For the purposes of this subcommittee, we definitely wanted to focus in on the special education referral process, but that is not to say that we couldn't brainstorm in our focus group and come up with additional topics for parents. And then we can also be working closely with our family and community engagement subcommittee, and to ensure that we're meeting the needs of families. And so Hilda, if you're available and would like to participate in the focus group, I would highly encourage you to do so. I think that's an excellent idea. Okay, any other questions in the chat box, or feel free to unmute yourselves as well. If you would like to ask questions live, we would love to hear from you. Excellent. Hilda says she will be joining. Thank you very much. Okay, I will share just a little bit here, and we can talk more later, but the good news is, just a forecast for you, I had a brief meeting with our citywide assessment manager yesterday, and one of the action items that her office is currently undertaking is developing a one-page informational flyer for families that they can physically take away from the evaluation that says, here are your next steps. Your child qualified for services today, and this is what will happen. Your child was ineligible for services today, and this is what will happen next. And frankly, we've been asking for this for some time. For those of you who are seasoned, this has been a request for some time. And so I'm very happy to tell you that this is in the works, and this should definitely help us as we support our families in accessing services going forward.
Gina, Iris asked, if a parent requests a therapeutic school, what is the process?
So I will say that a family member, a parent, is part of the IEP team. And so if those are requests that family members have, the IEP meeting is the time to voice those concerns, because it's not a unilateral decision, right? It's not just the parent saying, I want this. It really is part of the IEP team's decision to determine if that's an adequate or an appropriate environment. And so if the IEP already happened, I would follow up with our subject matter expert to determine next steps. If the parent's saying they dissent and they want to reconvene the IEP meeting, that's a possibility. But I hope that helps. That parent is part of the IEP team where those decisions are made. And that's a federally mandated, it's a law, basically. There's a law governing it and policies and procedures around it. And so I would say that if there are questions with regard to that, to please reach out to our subject matter expert. I hope that helps. Okay, I see others volunteering for the focus group, which we are very happy to see. And if you're on the fence and you're not sure, please, put your contact information out there. When we have more information about when we'll be meeting, how we'll be meeting, and the virtual, platform or in person, you can always make decisions later. But if you feel like you want to be part of this work, we would very much like to have you. Okay, if no other questions about the goals, we will move on to our data review. So as part of this subcommittee, what we'll be looking at and what Laura shared with you earlier are educational data and disabilities data. So Laura already shared with you some of the data concerns about, our children not performing at the widely held expectations for literacy and math, and kind of thinking about where do we go from there, right? So for us, for Shelby and I, we'll be talking with you about disabilities outcome data, and then we want to hear from you about where do we go from here. But you're really our partners in this, and we really need to identify next steps and how we can move this work forward. So let me start with Head Start, and then I'll turn over Early Head Start to Shelby. So as of March 30th, 2022, DFSS pulled the PIR, which is the Program Information Report. And what that data indicated is that we had 1,846 children enrolled in our Head Start program. That is for cumulative. Funded, we had 1,489 students enrolled in Head Start. Based upon that enrollment this school year, we had 178 children who were identified with an educational disability and who held an IEP at Chicago Public Schools. So based upon that, our disabilities enrollment for funded is 11.95%. So that is wonderful news. I want to say, let's give you all a clap, applause. That is not easily done. And we have achieved the 10% mandate for the grantee, which is fantastic. That's the good news. In terms of the cumulative enrollment for Head Start, we are currently at 9.64%. So we are very close to achieving the 10%. And we still have a few more months to get there. And so we are hoping with all of the referrals that we have in queue at CPS that those children will be identified and we will achieve the 10% as a grantee or as a Head Start recipient. What I will say is that we need to maintain that. So we can't drop below the 10%. So we can't let up our guard. We have to keep the work up, keep the good work going. What is still a concern and has been a concern for the past few years is that the number of children receiving their IEP services is considerably down. So currently we have 60% of our children receiving their IEP services. As you can imagine, that is not ideal. That means nearly half of our diverse learners who have been identified with an educational disability are not getting those supports that they need. They're not receiving speech language therapy. They're not receiving their occupational therapy. They're not spending time with the special education teacher to bring them up to those widely held expectations. So we will talk more in a little bit about your ideas, how we can best address that concern. How can we increase the number of children receiving their IEP services at Chicago Public Schools? I'm going to turn it over now to Shelby to talk about Early Head Start.
For Early Head Start, we had 1,300 cumulative enrollment, 1,267 funded enrollment. There were 93 children in Early Head Start receiving IFSPs, which leaves us with a 7.34% of disability or funded disabilities enrollment percentage, a cumulative disabilities enrollment percentage of 7.15. There were 87 children receiving IFSP services, and a 94% of children in Early Head Start were receiving IFSP services.
Great, thank you, Shelby. And if I might add, for those of you who are seasoned and experienced, you'll notice this interesting trend. Historically, over the years, our Early Head Start program has far exceeded the 10% disabilities enrollment mandate. So much so that when it came around to federal review waiver request time, it was the Early Head Start programs that were sitting at 17% of children enrolled with disabilities, 20%, and they would bring us up as a grantee, as a Head Start recipient. And what we're seeing is now it's shifted, right? So now we're seeing that we are achieving the disabilities enrollment mandate for Head Start, but we are not where we need to be for early Head Start. And so similarly, you'll see that on the next slide with our early Head Start expansion grant and our community partnership grant. And therein lies the conversations we need to have. What is happening with birth to 3, early intervention, child and family connections? What are the challenges that we are having that we are no longer meeting the 10% enrollment mandate for early? How is it shifted and where do we go from here? So let me pull up the next slide. And Shelby, would you like to share the breakdown here?
Yeah, so for early Head Start expansion, there are 276 students for cumulative enrollment, 200 students for funded enrollment, 26 students receive IFSPs, which gives us a funded disabilities percentage enrollment of 13%, a cumulative disabilities enrollment of 9.42%. 22 of those 26 children receive IFSPs, which gives us an 85% children overall receiving IFSP services. For early Head Start CCP, we have 1,005 students, 1,064 funded enrollment. 79 of those students receive IFS or qualify for IFSP services. There is a funded disabilities enrollment percentage of 7.18, a cumulative disabilities enrollment percentage of 7.86. 58 out of those 79 children receive IFSP services, which gives us 74% for early Head Start CCP, children receiving IFSP services.
Thank you, Shelby. So we see here the numbers again. We're doing fine for early Head Start expansion at 13% disabilities enrollment based on funded. However, we're a little shy of 10% based on cumulative, but we're still seeing 85% of the children are only receiving their services. And our goal as a subcommittee would be 100% of the children, right? If a child's identified as needing something, that child should be receiving that. Okay, and so early Head Start CCP, as Shelby said, we're shy of the 10%. We're sitting at 7.18 for funded and 7.86 for cumulative. And similarly, only 74% of the children are receiving their IEP services. Okay, so before we move on, just more food for thought. There's always the good news and the bad news, right? So the good news is, as I shared, as a Head Start recipient, DFSS has exceeded the 10% enrollment mandate. But know this, that the Office of Head Start, particularly Region 5, holds all Head Start subrecipients to the 10% mandate. So you don't see the breakdown here, but we do still have some of our subrecipients who are not achieving the 10% mandate and who will then likely be required to complete a disabilities federal waiver. And so they do look individually to each of the subrecipients to say, El Valor, have you met the 10% mandate for your Head Start grant? YMCA, have you met the 10% mandate? So that's the good news and the bad news, right? Together as a group, we seem to be doing okay. We have work to do, but individually, some of your programs may be experiencing more challenges. And so we would invite you to talk about what those challenges are next. So let's move on. What does the data tell us? We see today that a large percent of children are still not receiving their IEP or IFSP services. As I shared earlier, only 60% of our children are receiving their IEP services. And so we now want to hear from you. We want to hear what are the issues that you're experiencing, the challenges, the barriers. Let's start there. So feel free if you would like to type in the chat or if you would like to unmute yourself. We really want to hear from you about what is happening in the front lines.
Hello, my name is Rashida. A lot of my parents are having problems with transportation this year. So that would be a barrier.
So Rashida, the CPS transportation is a barrier to the children receiving their services, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And Rashida, may I ask what program you come from?
Gas Hill Center.
Gads Hill, very good. I just want to make note. Thank you for sharing that. And how have you been able to overcome some of those challenges for your children? Have some efforts been successful? What have you found to be successful?
Not a lot of success. A couple of parents have been able to transport the children themselves, but a lot of them work and things of that nature. It hasn't been that easy to do.
Okay, so that's a major barrier. And I can't see all of you, but I imagine you're nodding your heads because we know that there is a national shortage of bus drivers. And we are experiencing that in Chicago as well. And we know CPS is trying to deal with this, and they're offering stipends to families if they qualify and saying, here's $500 a month, family, please get your child to CPS for services. That sounds like a good idea. However, in practice, again, as Rashida just said, our families are working. They don't have the ability to coordinate transportation. They don't feel secure to coordinate transportation with an unknown provider. So Rashida, thank you for sharing that. Can anyone else offer?
I have one, Gina.
Please.
This is Janola from
Hi,
Y.
Jen.
Hi. One of our barriers is still COVID. We are serving the unvaccinated population of young children. So parents have a fear of having kids in two different locations and acting with two different population of people in the fear of their child getting COVID. So we're struggling with that. We're educating parents. We've had some clinics of getting the ones that was age qualified for COVID test to get the shots. However, we still have that under 5 population that cannot get it. And they're just, saying they want to wait and see what happens or wait until they can at least get the shots going. The other one is like Rashida said, the transportation. And then with early is pretty much just the same way. We had closed down, some of the transitioning into the center. So for providers, that was that second choice. And that was our strongest point of having providers come into because parents worked and things. So providers wasn't able to come into the center, and some just really didn't feel that we offered it virtual. That was one thing that we did do, was offer them to do it virtually at this time. But some still wanted that face-to-face, which we know is the best way. And so that was a struggle for us as well. And also getting them, having the providers come out to do the evaluations. We also offered that in our center as well, which we weren't able to do during COVID. And instead of going into the homes, so that virtual one wasn't quite working with earlies. That was a struggle as well. And that was the same with some 3 to 5. We offered it virtual, and still we couldn't get it going because of the lack of hands-on and face-to-face communication that we have with our parents. We were doing the more virtual instead of face-to-face. So I think the answer to that question with early always meeting the 10%, it was because they had that extra support of doing it on site and even doing the evaluations on site if they could. And all of with COVID slowed the process down some.
And Gina, in the chat, I think Shamara shared something really similar, that there's a shortage of therapists going into the centers to provide services, and the majority of therapists are only providing telehealth services at this time, and those don't always work with the parent's schedule.
Thank you, Shelby. So I feel like we have multiple barriers, right? The risk of COVID, I'm hearing, exposure, not enough therapists.
Hortensia shared that they are also experiencing at her center a delay in response from the CFC after the centers submit EI paperwork.
Okay, that I am hearing that as well. Are there particular CFCs that are impacted, or all of them?
Hi, this is Hilda from El Valor. I just
Yes.
wanted to share that we've also encountered some of the same barriers. One being transportation. We also have several parents that take their child. They take them early from our center so they can take them to CPS for services. We only have very few, and it's maybe 5 $15 centers that are actually receiving the bus transportation, but most of them are not. So that's one issue. We also have parents that after they got through the evaluation, referral evaluation, for some reason they've declined. And I feel like it's also maybe part of like you said, education, like them knowing, the importance of the IEP and the services. So last month, we actually provided a workshop for parents around the referral process and navigating the IEP. We did have a low attendance, but we plan to do that a few more workshops. And that's why I was asking the question about, would it be just around the referral process? Because I feel also, educating parents on the IEP, the services, and how important it is for the children to receive those services at CPS. Would maybe, kind of help with that for them to receive those services. There's also same thing that someone mentioned, placement letters. For some reason, parents tell us that they haven't received the letter. So I always do check with Ms. Yoli. I'm always like, Yoli, can you check for this placement letter? So that's how I've been able to obtain some of those letters for our parents. But sometimes, when we get them, it's already past the deadline. We still encourage parents to contact the school, contact the case manager. But it's a lot of back and forth sometimes with the schools. I think those are the main 3. And with EI, we've also encountered the same thing as, we submit referrals and sometimes they've taken up to 3 months to call the families. Also, families have been waiting for services for several months. They don't receive IFSPs, so we're always constantly also reaching out to the CFCs for IFSPs, for copies, not only for our records, but also for, to individualize for the child in the classroom, but also to provide a copy for the families. I know that they're short-staffed. My understanding is that, not everyone's working in the office, so that might be also a challenge for them. But we've had a lot of challenges with early intervention as well.
Thank you for that, Hilda. That is similar to what I've been hearing as well from our school entry support specialists at CPS. Many of you who know Gina Del Pra, Andrina Ruvalcaba, they're sharing that there has been a shortage of service coordinators and there's a lot of turnover going on there. So you second that? That's your understanding as well?
And I forgot one more thing. Also those transitions for children that are going from early intervention to CPS for an evaluation. We've had a few children that missed that. For some reason, they were not, they did not receive that transition. So now that it now falls on us to submit a referral for them to receive an evaluation through CPS. So we encountered that last year. Now we're encountering it again this year.
So thank you for that. That is very helpful. And what I want to encourage all of you, we have a lot of barriers to work with here, a lot of challenges to overcome. Please reach out to your subject matter experts, your CPS SMEs, because all of this, it has to be timely, right? The child is evaluated on, say, April 1, and then within like 10 days, the family should receive that school assignment if the child qualifies for one, and the clock is ticking. So soon after the evaluations that you're participating in for your referred students, please be contacting the families, reach out to the SMEs if they haven't gotten that school assignment letter, because as you can imagine, there's a lot going on with all things, and COVID's impacting. And so we don't want any of the children to fall through the cracks. And so I know that you are, but I just want to continue to encourage you to please do so. Reach out to your SMEs. That's why we're here. We're here to help you. Thank you. That was very helpful.
And
Yes.
no, I just wanted to go through the chat because I know we're getting quite a few in there as well. Rashida also shared that virtual was a barrier for services because one teacher had to be stationary and sit next to a child. And that was really difficult with centers already being short-staffed. Diane agrees with Rashida Jasmine shared that she agrees as well, and they're struggling at her center to receive responses from CFC 10. Scrolling, Diane shared that they're having problems with transportation pickup at her center. Shamara shared that they are also struggling with long referrals from CFC 8 and also some from CFC 10 as well. Oops, scrolling the wrong way, 1 second. There's also a message in the chat about there being a lot of turnover at CFC 11, and that's impacted the response time from case managers at Christopher House. Jasmine shared that they have been waiting for children to receive Ifsp services that were evaluated months ago, and students still have not received any services. Also, some more agreement that CFC 11 and CFC 10 are slower with turnaround times.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Gina, so
Yes.
yeah, as you know, many barriers happening, especially here at Christopher House,
Mhm.
but especially with transportation. But I've been very working with our parents after they get their IEPs, asking them, at least trying to take their kids at least twice a week. They're doing the whole week, as I know it's so hard for them. So mostly our parents have been taking their kids at least twice a week. And if it's a long day where they cannot bring them back, we'll just say excuse for therapy services. And that's been very helpful for our families, at least going to at least get them on CPS at least twice a week to get services. It's been helpful for our families. And to the busing situation works out, as well as I've been doing a lot of follow-ups for the parents of getting their placement letters through our Nancy or IEPs or do placement itself, as many parents don't get their letters. And I will send an email to placement and be like, my parent just stated she didn't get, and they will follow up with the parent quickly to get the placement. And so, and then I will also support the parents by calling the case manager at the school to schedule a time for the parent to go and register them and explain about transportation. So that's been very helpful for the parents to help with that barriers to get our kids services. So it's been a lot to make sure, and then helping the parents understand with the COVID concern as we are going to this thing. Some parents, I only had at this time only 2 parents who declined services as their kid is going to kindergarten and they didn't want to go to services, but mostly all our kids have been going for their services at this moment during the COVID time. So I'm very fortunate, but there has been barriers with the transportation and stuff, but also getting the letters. But I've been really supporting my families on getting those for them.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Vincent, because that is helpful to all the rest of us. You know, historically, CPS would not allow children to attend part-time, like the child's enrolled in our inclusive classroom and the child's not attending, and they would be concerned about that, right? They would say, oh, we can't keep the seat because he's only coming, you know, sporadically. At this time, they're happy if they're coming. They're like, that's fine. Can you bring him on Tuesdays and Thursdays? We'll take him. And so I think Vincent's, right, your suggestion is excellent.
So
And
because I will call the case manager and tell them the situation is it's very hard for the parent to transfer every single day from work and stuff. And they were like, I was like, can we at least do 3 or 2 days a week? And they were like, yes, we will be more helpful to accommodate at this time. So I'm very helpful with the case managers where I have help, because I know it's important for them to go every day, but they understand it's very hard for the parents at this time with the transportation.
I think that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm taking notes of all of this this conversation and brainstorming solutions, and I think that's an excellent one. So I appreciate you sharing that, Vincent, very much. And I feel like a lot of our work too is working, as Vincent said, closely with the case manager, saying, no, the parent, you know, can bring them twice a week. And this has been allowed in other instances. Please let this happen. You know, just having those relationships and conversations, working closely with the school, the case manager is where it needs to be, right? Okay, other ideas, other concerns? I see the emails to our SMEs. Many of you communicating, issues with the application, the enrollment, the transportation, purple forms not being processed, case managers being out, you're not aware of it. So I thank you for all the hard work that you do every day for our children, our families, to help ensure that they receive the services that they're entitled to. It's shocking or surprising to me to hear that the CFCs are in such disarray and, not evaluating children within 45 days and talking about 3 months out. But I guess they're experiencing, similar challenges in terms of staffing and COVID. So we have a lot of work to continue to do. And, when I look at the data, again, there are some of you who have your programs achieving 100% services, receipt of services, and you're meeting the 10% mandate. So we'd like to hear from more of you about what's working and how that's happening. So Vincent, thank you for sharing that. Do we have anyone on the line from Trinity United?
Cynthia shared in the chat that she understands that some CPS case managers tell parents they cannot enroll unless the child attends, but parents can enroll until transportation starts. And then she said, please contact your SME so we can mitigate this issue and even contact district reps.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Cynthia. Yes, I'm sure you've all experienced it where you go to enroll the child at the school and the case manager says you have to bring them for 1 day or we can't enroll the child. They must attend and bring them 1 day. Otherwise, they can't have the seat. And so that's not accurate. That is not true. They should go ahead and proceed with the enrollment. There should be no barriers. It shouldn't be the principal has to look at this and approve it and it sits on his desk until that happens. No, that should not be happening. So if you encounter any of these barriers, please reach out to us. We will help troubleshoot it with you, with the school, with the case manager. And as Cynthia said, we'll escalate it to the district rep who's actually above the case managers to ensure that everything happens as it should for our children. I see a lot in the chat, Shelby. Is there other questions we can address or concerns?
Nope, I think we're caught up. Irma just said, yes, we are. Irma, I think she's sharing that her center was the one that a parent was told that they can't enroll a child until transportation starts. So hopefully that clarified that for her, but no, we are all caught up in the chat.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I do want to share with you, I feel like we learn from each other and from experiences that arise, but CPS has an automated process by which if a child is absent for 10 days or more, a letter is generated from our database and is mailed to the parents indicating that the child is truant. And it's kind of a concerning letter, and know that happens. And, we haven't quite experienced it to this degree prior to this, but having children enrolled at CPS and not having transportation services has prompted that letter to be sent out to families. And so we want to assure the family this is an automated process. It's not of a concern. With this, we'll follow up. We know you're waiting for transportation. We're doing what we can do. You're supporting your families and seeing if they can qualify for that stipend, all that we can do. But know that in some instances, letters have gone out and it's been alarming to some families. So I just want you to be aware of that. Okay, so a question from Diane Winters. For clarity, are you saying the principal cannot dictate when a child can start services at their school? Yes. So a child with an IEP is protected, Diane, by legal timelines. And so once a child is evaluated by a school district, within 10 days, the family needs to receive a placement or an assignment for that child. And so there should be no barrier at the school. The principal, should not be saying, oh, he can't enroll because I'm, out this week and no. If that happens, reach out to your subject matter expert. We are here to support you. Everyone has a manager. And so the district rep is actually oversees the schools, the case manager, the principal. And sometimes we have to reach out to the district rep to say, no, X school is saying they are not enrolling him. And then the district rep has to intercede to make it happen. So yes, the principal should not be putting barriers in place for our diverse learners. Okay, you did have this issue. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, other challenges. I hear a lot about CFC, timelines, turnover, access issues in terms of COVID. How about allowing visitors into your centers now? Are you fully reopened to EI providers who want to come in? Are you still requiring gowning, facial covering, masking? And forgive me for not knowing all of that, but are you fully 100% open now to allowing EI providers in?
Yes, we are allowing our EI providers services at our sites.
Great. And are you giving parents, okay, thanks, Jasmine. I see you're allowing them with masks. Are you giving parents a choice? Like the EI provider can come here to Christopher House and provide the services, mom, or if you would prefer, to reduce COVID exposure, we'll do virtual. So are you allowing the parents that?
Yeah, I sent a letter to our parents, to the therapists and EI as well, stating that the hours that we're allowing therapists in our center during the time, and that parents have the options to still do it at home virtually, but we are allowing therapists now in our sites.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Vincent. And Tracy, Janola, thank you for sharing. They have to be masked, they have to be screened. Diane, thank you, with masks. Parents also. Okay, very good, very good. And I will say this, similar at CPS, as you know, with COVID, we began a hybrid model for evaluating students where we were doing a vast majority virtually or remotely. Now we are moving to a place where our citywide assessment manager is saying, we really need to see these children in person. This is, we're at a place where we feel more secure with the COVID rates being down, and it's a disservice to children to be evaluated on a screen. And so we're really encouraging families to come in person. So just know that that is what's happening. Parents, of course, have the option to participate virtually, remotely. But in the near foreseeable future, your participation will continue to be virtual. So we're still going to be asking our external stakeholders to participate in the remote setting, but we're encouraging parents to come in person. Okay, we are not fully open to EI providers, but we will plan on that soon. Okay, very good. So it's not across the board. You're not all fully reopened to providers and parents, but some of you have your different program plans to phase that back in, right? Okay, and same as far as masking at Chicago Public Schools, we can't mandate it, but if the family member, the parent, the child feels more comfortable at the setting to mask, then they can do so. Okay. I feel like we've covered a lot of challenges and a lot of solutions, or what's working. So this has been incredibly helpful. Is there anyone who would like to share further? Anything we missed? Anything new or different happening at your program that you would like to share with us? Shelby, anything in the chat? Anything new?
Nope, nothing new.
Great, thank you, Shelby. Okay, so we did talk a lot about the service delivery piece, and all the barriers related to that. What about enrollment? Let's just talk briefly about enrollment. So I know yesterday was the launch of the new Chicago Early Learning application. And I know that we've had challenges with dual enrollment with our children in the past. And, families who are enrolled in your CBOs go to CPS, their child's evaluated, found eligible for services, and they're told to complete the Chicago Early Learning application. And in the past, the Chicago Early Learning application was COPA based. And so that caused a lot of problems in terms of families not being able to create a duplicate application. And that was a major barrier. However, my understanding now is this new Chicago Early Learning application that is launched yesterday is no longer COPA based. And so there is no concern in terms of duplicate applications and causing challenges in that way. So we hope that that is the case. But tell me, again, you're in the front lines. Are there issues that you've experienced enrolling children with disabilities? Yes, Ms. Gonzalez, I see your hand is raised. Feel free to unmute, please.
Like you mentioned, just the duplicate application in COPA. I'm the URSIA manager, so when I do enroll the children through COPA, and I can't accept them because of the duplicate, we have to submit a ticket, and then it's the whole waiting, and then the parents are anxiously wanting to bring them in, and then they start to have second doubts and say, you know what, I'll just find another center that probably will get me in faster. And we need to explain to them the process, that why it's taking so long, why the child can't start right away. And then plus all the documents needed, whether it's the physical, dental, if they have an Ifsp, IEP, so that way we can have a copy of that. So all of that is what holds up all the enrollment.
So thank you for sharing that. And we're very fortunate to have you as part of the conversation as the URSIA manager. I definitely am not knowledgeable about all that it is required, but it does sound pretty intense. But what I would say is we should probably in the future have a conversation about what is absolutely essential and required for enrollment and what things we can kind of delay or proceed without. And so I'll share just very briefly in terms of referring children to Chicago Public Schools for evaluation. We have that referral packet piece, and sometimes children don't have a current physical, sometimes they don't have a current hearing and vision, sometimes we don't have an updated teacher report. And so we have, decidedly determined that some things we're going to move forward without. Right. So CPS is, we don't need a physical. Is it ideal to have a current physical on file for the last year for this child? Yes, of course. But if we don't have it, are we going to hold it up? And the answer is no. And so I wonder, as we're trying to enroll children with disabilities, if there's a way we can kind of expedite or move past things that we are not essential. And maybe we can talk more about it here, or we can talk about it in our focus group. But we would love for you to participate, Ms. Gonzalez, because we would like to know from an URSIA perspective, what we can move forward without, right?
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you too. And I know Craig Zemke, our DFSS data manager, he is very helpful in terms of ticketing and enrollment issues. And so if you've tried to reach out to Craig, or, if our subject matter experts can assist, please reach out to us. We will try to help as well. Because we definitely want to ensure that children are enrolled, in a timely manner. Okay. Any other barriers to enrolling children with disabilities? I feel like we could have a whole nother conversation about children with severe or significant disabilities and, enrolling them in our programs and how we can meet their needs and what are the challenges related to that. But what we know is that Head Start performance standards say that we must enroll children with disabilities regardless of the severity, regardless of the type. And we are a fully inclusive program model. And so again, our subject matter experts are here to assist you as you are enrolling children with significant disabilities. And we can provide training and technical assistance in supporting you, your classroom teachers, in ensuring that child's fully able to participate in the Head Start environment. Okay, if there's nothing further, I thank you so much. This has been incredibly insightful and informative, and I've taken, very thorough notes, as I'm sure many of you have also. And this will definitely inform our work going forward. I will share all of this great information with our project manager, with our director, B. Nichols. And then I'm sure that we will have more information forthcoming about next steps in terms of the focus group and kind of where we go from here. I would welcome you to share any thoughts on next steps as well, things that you think we should bring back to DFSS as must do or high priority. If you could share those now, either by unmuting or putting it in the chat box. Tracy, I see paraprofessionals. Yes, you're thinking we want to talk about paraprofessionals, right? So I will share for those of you, yes, they are not covered on the contracts anymore and they should be, yes. So with the deep Head Start funding cuts that DFSS has encountered, they were no longer able to fund the paraprofessional project. However, that does not preclude our programs from budgeting and hiring, recruiting, hiring paraprofessionals at your agency level. And some of our programs do. And so we can definitely bring that back, Tracy. But we should talk more about, what that request is and see if there's any capacity for it. But my understanding is at this time, there is not funding secured for that or available for that. But I will take it back. I will take it back. So I thank you for that. We need the paras. Okay. Any other suggestions? Important next steps, things you would like DFSS to be aware of? Okay, if nothing else, and then we'll move on to our wrap up and our updates from the CPS and
And
Eric.
I just want to say, and I just want to add to our subject matter expert. I think that there's, in spite of COVID and everything that we've been through, I just want to give hats off to them. They have really been a great support to me and my team.
Thank you, Janola. Thank you for that. I promise, have been working hard to troubleshoot the service access issues, referral issues with you, and we thank you for your partnership
Yes.
and working closely with us. We are all in it, as all of you are too, and we continue the work. Thank you for that. Thank you. It's a pleasure to work with all of you. Yes, so a question in the chat. Did you say paras are no longer funded under Head Start? Yes, that is correct, Diane. With the deep funding cuts from the Office of Head Start, DFSS was no longer able to budget for the paraprofessionals to be hired at that level. Like I shared, it doesn't preclude your programs from budgeting funding to hire paraprofessionals at the agency level. And some of our programs are doing that, hiring 1, 2, up to 3, 4 paraprofessionals, whatever is needed. But there has to be, thought and preparation and planning around that at budget time. Thank you. As someone else is complimenting, they're grateful for their SMEs. That's Jasmine Prince. Thank you. I see all of you working hard together to troubleshoot issues for our children. Janola, thank you for volunteering for the focus group. Anyone else? Don't miss this wonderful opportunity. Again, if you can come and be a part of it, we would welcome you. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for volunteering as well.
And Irma shared that they would like disabilities trainings.
Okay, I'm glad that you asked, Irma. What kind of disabilities trainings are you thinking of?
Referral process and how to connect the families with the therapists that they need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so absolutely. Thank you for asking. I'm glad you brought the issue of training up. So we do have training at various levels. So DFSS will be providing disabilities training coming in the month of May. We have some great trainings that we'll be hosting, one of which are the developmental screening tools. So if you or your teachers are in need of EZR training, Asq 3, Asq Se2 training, we invite you to register for the trainings on COPA. They are not yet posted, but they will be very soon. So we ask you to please watch the CSD update for disabilities trainings. They will be coming soon. We will also be having a CPS referral process training coming up in May. And so I don't have the date for you. One of my team members, perhaps they can tell me the date while we are here. But I believe it's May. Is it May 20th, Jan?
The ECR is May 20th.
And thank you, Jolie. The referral process
When he left.
training.
The referral process training is June 3rd.
Forgive me. Thank you, Jan. I had May 20th on my brain. So June 3rd, So you'll be looking for that.
Well, because I'm bringing me in with a mask.
Mhm.
Oh.
And we have
some
some other trainings coming as well. Let me take a look if I can pull them up
But
for
they
you.
changed them into the school.
But you might
year.
want to pencil in the training dates. And then, like I said, you can look for them on the CSD update. And if you're in close communication with your subject matter experts, they can also be emailing you to let you know when the trainings are posted. So let me, are you still seeing my screen?
She says around his mouth.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. Thank you. I was trying to pull up our training brochure very briefly. If I can, bear with me. Here we are. And so as I shared, this is in the works and they will be posted very soon. But if you have a pencil or a pen and you want to jot these down, here are the dates and times. So we have the Asq Se2 training. That is the tool that we use for social emotional for our birth to 5 students. And it will, all of the trainings will be virtual. So the first one coming is May 4th. And we've reserved 12:30 to 2:30 because with the feedback we received is this is a good time for your teachers, your staff, because children are napping. And so the time for that will be 12:30 to 2:30. And it's open to our teachers, disability service coordinators, ed coordinators, site directors, home visitors, family support workers, whomever may need it. So please jot that down. The next is the EZR training, and that will be coming on May 20th from 12:30 to 2:30. Again, this will be virtual, held via Zoom. All of these trainings you'll need to register for on COPA. Okay, and that is for our 3 to 5-year-old students. So I encourage you to please come and join us. If you or your teachers are in need of training on the ASQ3, the Ages and Stages questionnaires, this is the tool we utilize for our birth to 3 population. Please join us on May 25th from 12:30 to 2:30, again, virtual via Zoom, and you will need to register on COPA. Okay, and I believe it was Irma, you had asked about referral process training. So we will be talking specifically about referral process for students 3 to 5. And that will be happening on June 3rd, as Jan shared, from 12:30 to 2:30. So please look for that one on COPA.
And Gina, just to clarify, these will be on COPA, but they're not on there right now. Is that correct? Yeah.
That is correct. That is correct. Thank you, Shelby. Yes, so I would say look to these being posted within the next week or so. And then, of course, if you're in close communication with our subject matter experts, you know, they can also let you know when the trainings are posted. So expect to receive an email to say, please register, the trainings are available on COPA. Okay. And then finally, we have our federal laws inclusion of children with disabilities training. And so this is very good for those of you who want to know what legally is required of you and your programs in terms of including diverse learners. And so this will be on June 8th from 12:30 to 2:30, again, on COPA. Register on COPA and the training will be virtual on Zoom. And as Shelby said, please know that they're not posted yet, but they are coming soon, okay? Any questions about the upcoming trainings?
I get that, but we can't disregard. I can't.
I'm sorry, can everyone please mute themselves? We're getting some feedback.
That's not what we're gonna do.
Okay, as we are wrapping up, we do have some updates that we would like to share with you. And so I'll turn it over to Shelby.
I wanted to share with you all on the early Head Start side that there has been an extension to early intervention services. So children with birthdays between May 1st and August 31st may now continue EI services until the beginning of the school year. If they received EI services prior to their 3rd birthday, they qualify for early childhood special education services, and an IEP is developed and parents and guardians decide to remain in EI services. I can send the all the requirements if you guys would like in the send out that DFSS sent. But that's kind of the gist of the requirements to continue with extended early intervention services. Sure, I will send that, Rashida.
Thanks, Shelby. Okay, and then finally, just some CPS updates. Many of you are aware of this as well, but if there's one person who needs to hear it, just very briefly, CPS, we are offering flexibility for families of children who are referred for Chicago Public School Special Education Evaluation. And so, as I mentioned earlier, our CPS Citywide Assessment Team, also known as CATS, offers in-person evaluations for children, also hybrid model, meaning that the child and family can participate virtually from home or from your office, your location, and be evaluated in that manner. In addition, we are offering Saturday assessment options to families. And so when our scheduler calls the families to make the appointment, she is, or Marisol is encouraging the families, please bring your child in person. We're still limiting in-person capacity, so one parent, one child. The evaluations are held at our assessment centers. We currently have two. One is at Garfield Park, and that's located at 2651 West Washington Boulevard. And our Southside Assessment Center is at 4655 South Dearborn. And so based upon where the family lives in the city, they're scheduled either at Garfield Park or Coleman, or virtually, as we said. We have one Saturday assessment per month up until May. And so our next Saturday assessment will be on April 30th. And know that the appointments have to be scheduled. So unfortunately, no walk-ins can be accommodated. And then our wrap up for this school year will be Saturday, May 21st. And so don't be surprised if you receive an invite for a child who's been scheduled for a Saturday. It's not an error. The parent simply decided that was their preferred day. I know for some of you that is a challenge. Your staff, obviously isn't working on Saturdays. Some of you have been able to provide your staff comp time so that they can participate in children's evaluations virtually. And some of you frankly have not, and that's okay too. If in those instances, it is really helpful if we have just a brief narrative from the teacher to say how the child is doing presently. It can be on an email, it can be on, a Microsoft Word doc, but CPS really likes to hear from the teachers in terms of how that child is doing today. The reason is we know that it can take up to 3 calendar months from the time of the referral for the child to actually be evaluated. So we may have a teacher report, but that report may be from, say, like November, right? And so we were saying, how is he doing today? So just wanted to offer that. Okay. And then finally, every month, Chicago Public Schools hosts an intervention transition meeting for families. And the purpose of this is for those families whose children are aging out of early intervention, and now they're going to be evaluated at Chicago Public Schools. And, they have questions. What does this look like? What does this mean? What will my child qualify for? How will I know what school he's assigned to? And so each month on this very same Google Meet link, our citywide assessment manager, George Coleman, meets with parents and providers. So you're welcome as well to hear that information, to ask your questions. If you aren't able to join virtually and you would like to join by phone, the number is here. But please know, obviously you won't be able to see the slideshow that's presented, but you will be able to listen in. So I encourage you, if you have questions or you haven't ever participated, please feel welcome to come and join us. Okay, the next one is happening on April 26th, 1 to 3 p.m. Okay, so if we have nothing further, we want to thank you for joining us today. I do see one question from Rashida. So would the disabilities person and teacher attend virtually? Absolutely. So Rashida, at this time and into the foreseeable future, any evaluations of our students, the community-based partners need to participate virtually. That is because we're still limiting COVID in-person capacity. That is because our population, as you know, is not vaccinated. And so we're just trying to reduce risk Yes, so you will be participating virtually in the foreseeable future. And again, that is with parent consent. So the parent is legally required to invite whom they wish to the appointment. And that is why we secure parent consent on the parent invitation letter to say, is it all right that Vincent from Christopher House attends and along with the classroom teacher? If the parent says yes, then we email the Google Meet link to you. Okay, so I hope I answered that question. Any other questions before we go? Comments? Concerns? Thank you, Diane. She said it was very informative. She learned a lot. That's awesome. We're glad you came. We're glad you're here. We've missed seeing all of you. And so hopefully we'll have an opportunity to come together again. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah from Christopher House says, so glad we're meeting again. Yes, I feel like we've been estranged from each other for a long time. So we are very happy to see you and hear from you. Again, please reach out to my team, Shelby's team, questions and concerns. And thank you for being here.